Hi, so this video that I'm making is about a function in P5.js called map. So there's a very common scenario that comes up over and over and over again in programming graphics, programming interaction, working with data. There's so many places that this scenario comes up, and so this particular function map is a nice resolution to this problem. And let me give you a simple version of this problem. So let's say we have a canvas, and the canvas has a background color. And what you want is for that background color to sometimes be black and sometimes be white. So when it's black, the color that you should put in the background function is 0. When it is white, the color you should put in the background function is 255. So we can say together the range for the background function that I want in this particular program is a number between 0 and 255. So really a variable might go here, like call it COL, and COL should have a range between 0 and 255. Now, how do I want that value to be chosen? When should it be black and when should it be white? What I would like is when the mouse pointer is at this side of the screen, I want the background to be black. And when the mouse pointer is at this side of the screen, I want the background to be white. So I would like to create a scenario where I move the mouse left and right, and I see the background shift from black all the way to white, down to gray, darker gray, down to black, etc., etc. So this is what we want to program. Now let's say this canvas has dimensions of 600 by 400. So nicMAoW6u1g is a variable. If you've been watching these videos in sequence, which you don't need to have been to watch this particular video, nicMAoW6u1g is a sort of recent new phenomenon that I just talked about in a previous video. So if these are the dimensions of the canvas, we know that nicMAoW6u1g has a range that goes between 0 and 600. So we now want the background color to have a range. Oh, sorry. We want, I lost my train of thought there. Well, the mouse has a range between 0 and 600, and the background color we want to have a range between 0 and 255. So we need to take this value with this range, and what do we want to do? Map it to this range. When nicMAoW6u1g equals 0, background color equals 0. When nicMAoW6u1g equals 600, background color equals 255. Let's kind of like start doing that a little bit for a moment without the map function at all. Okay, so here's the program. I'm going to actually simplify this for a second. Var color equals 0. I'm going to say background color, and you see this. So we can see here I'm running this program. This ellipse is being drawn where the mouse is, so we can see, and the background is being colored according to that variable. But the background color is not changing because I set it equal to 0, and I never changed it. So now I could try to do some math. Like I could just say color equals nicMAoW6u1g. Like, why not? That's pretty good. Whatever the value of nicMAoW6u1g is, set the background color to that. So let's see what happens. I'm going to run this. Look, it's working, it's changing, but it's already white. Why? Because as soon as I get to pixel 255, that's the full whiteness. So I'm not getting this perfect mapping. It's kind of like working, but it's not exactly right. So I could be approximate. I could say, okay, well, the canvas is 600 pixels wide. Why don't I divide by 2? That's pretty good. 600, whatever the nicMAoW6u1g is divided by 2, that's getting me pretty close. Actually, it kind of looks like it's working, and that's, we kind of solved the problem. But here's the thing. This problem that we have just sort of barely solved over there, this is a very simplistic view of it. But there's lots of times where you have a sensor, like data coming in from some sensor, and the range is between 321 and 1057. And then you want to map that range to some other set of values, and actually that other set of values has a range between 20 and 35, and the math is a little bit trickier. Or perhaps you want to take a value that goes between 0 and 200 and invert that and map that between 200 down to 0. So there's lots of more complex scenarios. The map function is a general function that will take any range and map a value inside that range to a new value in any other range. So let's take a look at how that works in this context. So first of all, what do I mean by function? So already hopefully you know about calling functions in P5, right? You might have done this. Line is a function that takes 4 arguments. 1, 2, 3, 4, and what does it do? It draws a line from, point 100, 100 to 50, 50, done. So map, it's the same thing. It's a function that takes some amount of arguments. It's actually going to be 5 arguments. Ooh, I better give myself more room here. I can see that you're not going to be able to see this. Map, it takes 5 arguments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See all those? Okay, so this seems like, oh boy, 5 arguments, that's terrifying, but it's not so bad. So remember, I have a range that goes between 0 and 600. This is the range we know that mouse X is, and I want to map this range to a range between 0 and 255, which is what I want to assign to my variable color. So the arguments that map requires are the following. What is the minimum and maximum of my current range, 0 to 600? What is the minimum and maximum of my new range, 0 to 255? And what is the value that has this range and which I want to map to the new range? Well, in this case, it's mouse X. So I want to map mouse X, which I know has this range, that's the X values, and I want to map it to this range between 0 and 255 for the purpose of color. And then when I map it, what do I do with it? I want to take the result of that mapping and set it equal, assign the result to my variable color. So this is what's actually something quite new about this map function. The line function doesn't do any, it performs a task. Line, it draws a line in the canvas. The computer draws a line on the canvas. The map function actually performs a calculation and answers a question. It resolves to a single number, so I can use that number and assign it back to this variable. Okay? So this is kind of a new concept. Let's go try to do it in this program. Instead of my goofy math here, mouse X divided by 2, what I want to do now is use that map function. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say map mouse X, which has a range between 0 and 600. Oops, I guess I better zoom back out. And give me a new value within a new range between 0 and 255. So here, mouse X between 0 and 600, give me a range between 0 and 255, and assign that to this variable color, which I'm then going to use in background. And watch this. You can see all the way perfectly white at pixel 600, perfectly black at pixel 0. Let's have a little more fun with this. Fun is all relative, of course. Let's give ourselves 2 more variables. So I'm going to make a variable R and B, R for red, B for blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the red value equal to that mapping. So you can see now, right, blue is at 255, red is at 0, and red, R, is getting that mapping with mouse X. So as I move to the right, I get more pink and purple, all the way back more blue. And here's something interesting I can do with map. Let's also map the blue value. But instead of saying when the mouse is at 0, the blue is at 0, and the mouse is at 600, the blue is at 255, let's do the reverse. Let's say when the mouse is at 0, we have 255 blue, and when the mouse is all the way on the other side, we have 0 blue. So we can also invert that range, which is great. That map will do that for us. And all the way, we can see I get all the way red, all the way blue, and in the middle, I've got red and blue together. So, and also, by the way, if you're thinking of, so you might take this exercise, maybe add mouse Y to it, try to map mouse Y. There's all sorts of possible things you can do with this. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a sense of the map function, and that you found that useful, possibly. Okay, I'm going to stop this.